I'm Scott L. Miller. It is the 7th of October, 2022. It's Friday, and welcome to my vlog of daily life in Leon, Nicaragua. And if you watched yesterday's episode, you know that I am currently in Zaragoza making my very long walk back home because I just finished recording 10,000 steps worth of footage for you guys because there was a request to get a video stream of Zaragoza, and so that is what I did this early afternoon. Took about 2 hours, and I am exhausted, so thirsty, so hungry. Can't wait to get home and get a shower, get these uploads going because we have so many uploads to do. It's going to take all night, but I'm busy this evening, so I don't have to worry about actually working on them tonight because that's just not plausible. So I have all evening for the uploads to get done. I'll get downloads done, so hopefully in the morning I can get to work on those. This evening, so today was actually a pretty light day at work. It was great. I did have a few hours on the phone, but that's not bad, and I had a lot of time to actually work on other things and focus on videos. I've done lots of videos today, so it's all been very good, so I'm very happy with that. This evening we have the plan that we are actually going out. We're making it a big night out on the town. Last night we went out. I forgot to mention.
Hey Scott, how are you, man?
Hey, how are you? That catches me by surprise. And so the last night I forgot to mention, because we're doing the really long Zaragoza walk, I only talked about Liesl and I watching the Hobbit, which we did until about 4 o'clock in the morning. So a little bit tired from that. That does not excuse my delirium. I'm just tired from walking. But we did stay up very late watching movies together, which was cool. We like having our father-daughter time to do that stuff. And there's only so many things that we're able to still bond like that over, because there aren't that many shows that she wants to watch, and there's only so much time that we're able to get together, and just everything. So when we find something, it's really important that we take the time to do it. And so we did this really late night binge of The Hobbit, and that was really cool. But before that, Dominic and I went out to dinner and I actually have to stop and think about where we went to dinner because I'm so tired. We went to, I was gonna stop the show. I was literally gonna stop it so I could sit here and go, where did we go? We went to Mi Casita right in La Barria, which is really close to us. And she's like, I've never heard of this place. I've never been there. And so we go there, and I'm like, really? I could have sworn you'd been here. As soon as we get there, she's like, oh yeah, this place. And so I got fish fingers, which are good, and French fries, like nothing special. She ordered the she ordered the cheese fingers, dedos de queso, which is what I ordered last time that I was there when Paul and I went, and they didn't have them last time. After we ordered and we were sitting there for a while, they came back and they're like, oh yeah, we don't have the cheese fingers. And she's like, it's the only thing on the menu I can eat. So she didn't get anything. So I had dinner there. She sat there with me, but I went there for her. I wanted to go other places. She wanted to go there. So that's why we ended up there. And then we went and met Paul and Alan and Anna and Claudia at De Humo, which is also in La Barria, right around the corner. And we got dessert and drinks there. Roberto Reyes was playing, so we got some live music, hung out for a little bit, and have a nice evening. That was last night that I missed. City bus, hola todos. And tonight, Alan and Anna have been in Managua all day. They are on the UCA bus. They may actually be back by now. And they're coming in. We're gonna go out, a whole bunch of us. Marcela's coming up, Acel is coming up. Some new people. We're all going out to dinner at Il Capriccio. That is the plan, because Paul didn't want to go to Valenti's. And then I think we're going to head out dancing out on the east side of the city at a place we haven't been to in like a year. Probably not quite that. No, it's probably about that long. It was very early when Alan had first gotten here. We found this place that does salsa out on the east side. I can never remember its name, and we've never made it back. So we're gonna try to make it there tonight because everybody wants to go dancing. It has been a while. I've done 10,000 steps on this particular walk, and I did 5,000 before that. So I have done a lot of steps today. Plus I took the dogs for a walk once or twice without my watch. So it's even more than that. and I'm not home yet, so I have a bit of a walk to get back home. I am just about to leave Saragossa to enter El Centro on my way back to Laborio, and I'm on the far side of Laborio, so I have a lot of walking left to go. But that is where we are today. It has been a good day with a lot of exercise, a lot of fresh air, and it looks like it's going to be a fun evening going out with the crew here in Nicaragua. So I'm going to leave you guys there. I wanted to do as much catch up as I could as I was walking back and get all these uploads going, because it'll run all night. I will catch up with you once we have more news. Okay, I'm recording today's rest of the update actually on Sunday in Hurricane Julia. So that's what's going on right now. The rain is coming down. The eye of the storm, as I'm recording this, is currently hovering over Managua and Jinotepe. So that very central south capital region is in the lull, and we out here are getting the rain. Out at the beach, there is a ton of rain. Right as I'm talking, we're getting a bit of wind. This just started, and we've had rain on and off all night and all morning. And out where Alan is, which is that way, in Colonia Universidad, no rain right now, but it'll be there shortly, I'm sure. The power has stayed on, and of course the internet always stays on. So we're doing okay so far. This is nothing. This is not even a heavy rain. It is getting on the lens because there's a little bit more wind than usual, but that's about it. I really don't want to have the camera out in the rain, so I'm going to head to a tree because when I came out, it wasn't really raining yet. So my walk today went great, and this evening we did manage to go out and go dancing. We had a really nice evening. It was cool. We took like a huge group, like 8 of us, went out to Valenti's for pizza and pasta, did dinner there, and delicious as always. And we're losing me. This is why I need the newer GoPro with the hydrophobic lenses, so that little things like just going out in a little bit of rain doesn't cause a problem, because it's just that it gets on the lens that's an issue. We had a really good time, had dinner at Valenti's, and then we decided to go out dancing because the girls wanted to go to Taquesal out in Primero de Mayo, which is, we haven't been there in many months, almost a year. And the last time we were there, we did salsa dancing, and it was pretty cool, and we liked the place. Sorry for having to keep doing that. But this time was absolutely atrocious. We will never go back. This was one of the worst bar experiences we've ever had in Nicaragua. It was so bad, and the venue is pretty cool. It's in a weird location. It's out on one of the main roads to the east of town. It actually overlooks the highway. But they have a really big space, and it's really good for like setting up the DJ and having music, and they have a decent dance floor and lots of room for tables and stuff. I like the physical venue, and we liked them last time that we went. That's why we were looking forward to going back. But last time their DJ was pretty good. Like, they had good music, and it was fun to dance. This time it was supposed to be a 70s and 80s night, and they just played the most boring music. It was a mixture of the music of the 70s and 80s you would never dance to, like Elton John, and which is not bad music. It's just not appropriate music for a discotheque, because it is a dance place. That's the thing. You go there to dance. That's what it's for. There's a dance floor, and then when they weren't playing music like that, which was most of the time, they were playing unheard of songs. Literally, we're like Shazamming it, and not one person, not the Nicaraguans, not the Americans, had ever heard of any of the bands or any of the songs. Nothing was familiar. We just kept laughing. We're like, how is he even finding this music? It's so obscure and bad, right? And so no one was dancing. It was terrible. And Anna even went up and complained about how bad it was. And the DJ was like, okay, and didn't change anything. Played like one song that was halfway decent. Played Rivers of Babylon, which, Rivers of Babylon, I really like the song Rivers of Babylon, but no American knows it. It was an 80s hit. And I think it was actually an American song, but it was a hit outside of the U.S. So I've never heard it in the U.S., even though it's an American 80s song. But here in Nicaragua, it's a standard at the dance clubs, right? So if you go out, not every night, but if you go out regularly and are at dance clubs, say 3 or 4 times, you're almost guaranteed that one of those nights, if not more, someone will play Rivers of Babylon. It's a really good 80s dance tune. But that was it. That was the one good song for the entire night. And the service was atrocious. The guy was intentionally avoiding our table. Every order was wrong. Things were missed. We couldn't even leave because they wouldn't give us a bill. I went up to get a bill. They're like, you have to get it from your waiter. I'm like, the waiter who won't serve us? And they're like, oh, that guy. And then he's throwing things at the bartenders because he's so pissed because he can't get things. He's mad at everybody. Everybody's mad at him. It was terrible. And they charged an 80-cord cover to get into that monstrosity. They should have been paying people to go there, right? It was so bad. Never again. That was the worst. The worst. No, nothing was good. So we left there, and some of the group went home at that point, and some of us went out to 23 Bar and danced for a little while at a real dance club that actually was full of people. Taquesal had people, but only people who were staying because they paid the 80 cord and were kind of trapped, feeling like they had invested in it, and they couldn't leave because they couldn't get their bills. But people were really trying to get out. When I got my bill, the guy, just as fast as he could, trying to get bills out the door because everybody wanted to leave. It was not a pleasant place. And I mean that the people working were not pleasant. They were clearly angry at each other and very upset with how the night was going. And they'd stop serving people at the bar. I would go up to the bar. They wouldn't even look at me at the bar when I wanted to order. They're like, no, you have to. Like, they wouldn't say you had to go to your waiter. They just wouldn't serve you any other way. And then the waiter wouldn't come to your table. And even at one point when we wanted to leave, I actually stood up, got in front of the waiter as he tried to walk by, and I'm like, La Cuenta. And finally he's like, okay. And even then he went and did something else. I went to the bar and I'm like, I need my bill. I'm leaving. And they're like, you have to get in that. It was unreal. Never got anything like that here. Or anywhere, really. Like, that was truly bad. Normally, service here is pretty good. Not always super attentive, but generally pretty good. And if you need something, they get it for you. But, wow. So 23 Bar was good. We didn't stay out too late because we're all pretty tired. And then called it a night and headed back home. So I wanted to talk about, there was a comment on the videos. So that was the day. That was a good day, whatever we did. And, and we brought a lot of Valentis back to the kids in between. So that's what they had for dinner as well, and I'm still eating it now because we have so many leftovers. So someone left some comments on the YouTube community, and I want to address this because it's hard to tell whether people are disgruntled and confused or just trolls, because we do get, both here and in a lot of other Nicaraguan communities that I participate in, there is a huge amount of very clearly paid misinformation and derogatory comments made about the country, the people, the region, and a lot of it has specific terminology in it, but this one did not, and so it's worth addressing because there's specific terminology that is used that doesn't make any sense outside of like an American context and makes no sense to anyone who'd ever been here. So it's really obvious when you have people who have never come here, they have to be from the U.S., and they're trying to speak to other Americans. But this one was different. This was someone who had some amount of information about the country, but it was very inaccurate and was clearly being very aggressively derogatory towards the country and really a bit racist, which I want to delete the comment, but I don't want to just blanket delete people just because they're coming across as being inflammatory, because people really do sometimes have bad experiences. But I want to talk about what came up, and basically the gist of it is he's basically like, once you get to the country, all of your dreams are shattered because it's incredibly poor. There are no nice houses. There's no good furniture. There's no services. Everything is just terrible, and nothing's worth any money. And all your dreams of getting a nice place for cheap are a pipe dream. So this is important because it uses a kernel of truth and then makes a bunch of sweeping false statements about it. Is there extreme poverty in the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere? Yes, there is, and that's insanely unfortunate and a terrible thing. And being angry about it is kind of a really crappy thing to be. I mean, to be angry that people have to live poor. Yeah, be angry that the world is not even or even-ish in its distribution of wealth, of course. But he's not angry at the system for making people poor. He's angry at poor people for not having resources. Not exactly a cool thing, dude. But yes, and this is a problem. This is why I did the video on our changing perceptions of a country. When you first come to any country, first of all, any country that isn't your own, you're going to have a bunch of culture shock. There's going to be a bunch of factors that are simply different than where you're from. And this could be true if you're going to England or Germany or Spain or South Africa or Namibia or Vietnam, right? They're all wonderful countries, but they're all different. And so some things you're going to be just appalled by how one thing works, and then surprised by how nice something else is, and that every country's just different. And this doesn't not apply to America. It's just that America is where most people use their context from that watch this channel. So it's, if anyone moving to America has the exact same reactions of just different things, right? Oh my gosh, it costs so much for this thing. I was thinking it would be cheap because of this other thing, whatever. So that is always going to be the case. And coming to a really poor country, presumably from a relatively rich one, makes that effect typically more, right? So you're suddenly shocked by buildings in disrepair, by litter on the side of the road, by tin roofs. Once you see tin roofs, you suddenly go, oh my gosh, what is going on that there's a tin roof? Like that's a weird looking thing to Americans. But trust me, even to Nicaraguans, if you go to Morocco and see garbage roofs where they actually make their roofs out of garbage bags filled with garbage because it's an insulator, like to them it's a practical use of garbage and housing to lower cost and increase quality of life. But to us, it looks like this terrible, terrible thing because in America, you would never deem yourself to do that, right? You would always just pay for insulation. They're recycling. They're doing it because they're poor. That is absolutely true. But they're also being great for the environment and doing it intentionally. And it doesn't mean that the world is coming to an end. But if you first time you see it, you're going to be like, this is outside of my experience and context. I don't like this, right? So when you come to Nicaragua and you see roofs in rough shape and tin on lots of things, it tends to have a pretty big emotional impact, right? Whether it's that you feel really badly for the people who have to live this way, or you really dislike the idea of having to live around it. And for some people, that's just something they don't want to live around, right? You don't want to have, and I'm going to turn the camera around because I'm standing in a really nice spot. And if you look carefully here, we have the Eskimo dealer on the corner, and then this building here, it's not a tin roof, but it's a tin siding, right? And this building right there is a luxury restaurant, one of the most popular in the city. And this is an ice cream shop, and I'm standing next to a very fancy church. And so I'm in a nice area that is generally considered pretty affluent for Leon. And so Leon is really dramatic because of the colonial, I've talked about this, because it is a colonial city and you're not allowed to modernize in most of the city. That creates an effect where things look from the outside so much more poor. Things like your roofs, your siding, the fronts of your buildings tend to look to American eyes like kind of rough. And over time, when you adjust to it, it becomes oh no, this is your context changes, and you say this is just a colonial house. And sure, a new layer of paint may go a long way, but that's what's going on. And you start to realize there is beautiful stuff mixed all through, but our eyes tend to draw to a little bit of tin and miss beautiful landscaping or whatever. And you get the same effect if you go to Antigua, Guatemala, which is an outrageously rich city. And but anytime you see colonial stuff, there's going to be a part of you that goes, oh, this is because colonial is not look good to the outside, it's look good to the inside. And so a lot of these houses, and I'm going to just, look in the background of my video, right? These houses look like absolutely nothing. And some of them are very poor houses. But some of them are really large, luxurious houses with giant amounts of space and really fancy design and all kinds of stuff. And you can't tell which one's which from the outside. That's a security feature. That is a tradition. That is part of the colonial nature of the town. It just is what it is. So it's important to look at this comment about how, first of all, there's no roofs here that are tin, right? Do they exist in town? Yes. In this part of town? No. So his statement that everything is tin roofs? No. The fact that you can find tin roofs? Yes, absolutely. And sometimes it's used for temporary, sometimes it's used because it's cheap. Honestly, down at the beach, the only place I know of, I know there's more, I just don't know of them, but in Las Piñitas, the only one I know that's all tin is a wealthy Canadian New Zealand couple, and they did it because they think it looks cool is what they tell everybody, right? And they did tin everything, way beyond what Nicaraguans do. Right, so that's the expats and they spent $100,000 to do it. That's the style that they wanted, and so that's something you have to look at that from just because you don't like that style doesn't mean it's the end of the world. They're very practical, they're very affordable, and they're not ubiquitous. They're common, but I don't see any, and I don't see them on that common of a basis. Now, if I'm out on the road going past a really poor rural area, yes, you're definitely going to see them. And you'll see it used as temporary walls places. But in general, we have tile roofs in the colonial areas, yeah. And in more modern areas, you could have anything, right? You may have modern shingles or whatever, but tiles tend to be popular down here because of their cost and easy to repair
capabilities and their ability to resist the sun. So we tend to have tiles for practical reasons. And part of it is because in the United States you can't afford to do tile roofs, right? So in many ways, what you see here is actually a sign of it being a more expensive thing, but it's more able to be more expensive because it's labor intensive. It's complex. But so that's actually what you see. And he said you can't get good furniture here, which is just a lie, right? So Nicaragua is a furniture country. The traditional furniture that many people, especially like your grandparents here, want to have to Americans is not nice. It is a style we don't like. It is old, dark wood with the weaving right throughout it, and they're very practical and they're designed to be repaired and they last for generations. And here it is considered expensive furniture, and it's a thing you do to decorate, right? I don't find them comfortable. I don't like the way that they look. But I do know that they are expensive antiques, or they are handmade. You can get them new, but they are a fancy thing that people desire and pay money to keep working. They wear out and they get them replaced. This is not a situation where a bunch of people have crappy furniture that's not well made. This is very well made antique furniture. Just like I have the same reaction in the U.S. If you have antique furniture, you go to an antique furniture store and spend $50,000 on your antique furniture, all I see is trash, right? But that's not how most people see it. That's just me, right? That's my view. To me, it's just old, worn-out furniture. I don't know why people want old, worn-out furniture, but people do, and that's fine. It's just my personal opinion. I don't tend to like antique furniture. I like modern furniture and antique houses, and only certain types of antique houses. I don't like Victorians. They're weird to me. So everyone has their own taste, and mine does not like traditional Nicaraguan furniture. I find it really unattractive and really uncomfortable, but it is designed to be repaired. It is designed to last generation to generation. It is a tradition. People do it because they're celebrating their culture, and because of the weaving, it's designed to keep you from sweating. This is a hot place. Modern furniture like you would get from Denmark, which is what I like, doesn't work here because that's designed to keep you warm because they're always too cold. Here you're always a little bit too warm. So you want furniture that breathes and can be repaired. That's how it's designed. That said, if you want really modern furniture, modern to the American eye, you just have to go shopping for it. And I don't mean shopping for it shipped in. We've done that. We have furniture shipped in from Europe, and it's a little bit more expensive than the US, but it's not dramatic. You can just go to the furniture store and buy furniture like you would in the US. I have no idea what he's complaining about. It's just false that you can't get it because we buy it and you go to the store and it's sitting on display. But if you want it made here in country, even in the US, you can go to expensive furniture stores that are just being shipped in here from Nicaragua. We have entire communities here that make furniture as a thing. And you can get really good, high quality, modern furniture that sells for thousands of dollars per piece in the US. You can go get here the same ones, but of course you get it cheaper because they don't have to ship it out, and they're going to give you a discount because you're in country. So not only do we get the same furniture you get in the US, we get it at a fraction of the price. The selection is smaller, sure, but the need to compete with millions of neighbors is also smaller. You don't need as much variety. You don't have as many people to use that variety on. He comments about goods and services. The goods and services are not available. This is kind of true. The thing that's not available is an unbelievable surplus of unnecessary goods and services. Goods and services that you actually want are pretty plentiful. A few things require you to go a little ways farther to go to a store. Delivery is a little bit less available, sort of, except you can just hire someone for less money than you would have spent in the US and have everything delivered for you and have a custom shopper. So it's all perspective. Yes, you have to do it slightly differently, but if you were to go in the opposite direction, Nicaraguans have the exact same reaction in the US. Right, oh my gosh, the goods and services aren't available. Well, what do you mean? I can just go to Amazon and order anything I want. I can drive to Walmart. Oh my gosh, you have to drive or order online? I don't have to do that. I simply wish for the thing that I want and complain about it out loud, and my shopper leaves the house, gets the things I want for me, and brings them to me. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to make the payment. I don't have to take the delivery at the door. I don't have to get in my car and go somewhere. So to Nicaraguans who are doing those things, we have access to goods and services at such an unbelievable level of luxury, right? We all have, honestly, I mean, not all Nicaraguans, obviously, because someone has to be on the other side of this fence, But especially for expats, we nearly universally have maids. Now, I don't have a live-in maid. I only have a 6-day-a-week maid. But lots and lots of the homes you look at, people will be like, oh, what's this terrible bedroom? That's meant to be the maid's quarters. That's for someone who lives in and cleans the house and cooks and stuff right in the house. That's why it's there. It's not meant to be fancy. It's not meant for you to use it. And Americans tend to be like, well, I want more bedrooms. Nicaraguans tend to be like, I want a maid because that's what makes life really nice. So that whole goods and services thing, a lot of it is perspective. Can we do goods and services the way that you do in the U.S.? No. Can we do it in a way that costs less and is really, really, luxurious in a way that the U.S. you can't? Yes. Now, true, our selection on things is much smaller. But we get more cell phones than the U.S. does, but different ones. We have many brands that you do not in the U.S. And this goes for Canada and many other places too. Can we get a lot of laptops here? No. Our selection of laptops is certainly smaller than in the U.S. Can we get as many televisions? No. Can we get them? Yes, we have laptops, we have TVs. The prices are bad, and the selection is really bad, but they do exist, and you can always have them custom ordered if that's what you want. Now, that would become a big pain. But how many TVs, how many computers do you need to buy? Typically, it's not something you do every day. When you move, you're going to buy a few. Every so often, you're going to update them, but mostly they're an infrequent purchase. And the fact that they cost a little bit more when things like food cost a lot less, your housing costs a lot less, it's a good trade-off. I did another video about how our shopping has changed, and that's important to a big degree. And this is something, when you first visit the country, you don't have the mechanisms in place, you haven't learned the culture, you don't know how to get your goods and services. So lacking the exact mechanisms, go to Walmart, go to Amazon.com and order or pick up at the store, that those things are different here makes it seem like things are missing, and sometimes they are, but it also is misleading because many of those things are available. You just have to know where to go, and it's not the same store, or you have to send someone, it's not you go yourself, or whatever. Once you learn those tricks, first of all, everything gets really easy. But second, once you adjust to shopping and buying random things is not a form of entertainment here, it's like, okay, we do other things. If your goal, and I said this in the other video, if your life goal is to shop a lot for things you don't need, or you have a really specific life situation where you really do need to buy lots of things all the time, then this is probably not a good country for you. That's going to be a gap. The US, Panama, Canada, England, there are some places that are really, really good for that. This isn't one of them. This is kind of the polar opposite. But the idea that goods and services that are actually things that normal people would need are in short supply or unavailable is beyond untrue. So it's perspective, and so again, kernel of truth turned into something very false. He then says that there's no good houses, that all the construction's bad, that there's just nothing worth any value, nothing's worth anything, and everything's a fake price. Everything's a fake price is generally true. That is almost universally true. But many of the houses here are made of stone and concrete. These are multi-generational houses meant to last for hundreds and hundreds of years. The construction here is really good. It feels very different than the US because we're used to a very temporary finish of gypsum and paper on wood that looks great initially and wears very poorly. But we put a lot of finish on it, and and we have a lot of carpeting, and there's just things that feel a certain way in the US. And sealed windows and just all these things. And when you come to a country like this where the weather's different and the goal of the houses is different, it's, again, context. For me, having lived in places like this, I see American houses as garbage, right? Because they're built out of sticks and they don't last very long. They don't handle shifting. They can't be repaired very easily. They don't really last to move on to your great-grandkids aren't going to want your house. Here, things don't look as polished, but they look the same as they did 300 years ago, and they will look the same in 300 years. They're not going to go anywhere. You can repair them. They're very solid. I don't need special sealed windows because I want my windows open all day, and my interior of my house is probably open. I have all kinds of open space. It's a different thing. You have to adjust to it's a different place. And can I get luxury houses? My gosh, have you seen my videos? Like, we went and looked at this one 5 days ago or whatever. On Thursday, we went out and, no, I guess it was a week ago, I suppose. And absolutely luxury house. all the finest construction, beautiful, beautiful house, massive space, gardens inside, great community, everything. You couldn't touch something like that in the U.S. for under $4,000. Here, $800, right? And I was in that house. I would have taken that house if someone else didn't take it, for real, right? And that's $800. If you want to spend something approaching in any way a U.S. budget, you will get so much here, and that's the key, right? I think the reaction is there's two big things. Well, three. One is the context thing, right? You're just shocked by coming to a new country. I get it. That's going to make people be like, oh, there's things I don't. You will get used to that, hopefully. And it's just a different country. And you got used to it in America. You got used to it wherever you're from. You'll get used to it here. So that's just changing your context. The other thing is the real estate problem. There are so many real estate agents out there giving you false information, getting your hopes up that you're going to just all kinds of false information of every sort. That creates a really big issue with anybody coming to the country and hoping to figure something out. Oh my gosh, that dog was close. And the other is that a lot of people come here under the false pretense that they can basically get a luxury lifestyle that will be exactly what they wish they had in the U.S. but can't afford in the U.S. And yes, by coming here, your money will go farther than anywhere else, right? Period. There's nowhere in the region. Yes, someplace in Southeast Asia, yes, someplace in Central Africa. But if you want to talk about a lack of access to goods and services, like, think again what you think a lack of access is. If you are going to spend an amount of money on housing and food and whatever, here in Nicaragua, it is going to go farther than any other reasonable place that you're going to look at. That doesn't mean that this is the right choice for you. There's lots of other places where it's going to go similarly far, but not as far than here. But this is the farthest. This is the cheapest. This is the safest, lowest cost place in the region. That's just how it is. If you don't like it, fine. There's lots of wonderful other places. I love Panama. I love Guatemala. I love Mexico, right? There's lots of places really nearby that I would love to live. I prefer Nicaragua, but I don't prefer Nicaragua by huge percentages. I just prefer it by a little bit, right? All of these are great options, and you may prefer something different than I do. That's fine. But if the question is, how much is it going to cost? How much am I going to get? How much luxury can I have? Whatever your dollar will do, it will do more here, period. If you have a $500 a month budget in the U.S., you will get more luxury, more good construction, more good furniture here than in the U.S. If your budget's $1,000, same thing. $10,000, same thing. It doesn't matter how big your budget is. Whatever that budget is, it's going to go farther here and get you more. So if you don't like the luxury here, if you don't like the construction here, that is because your budget is so small that you can't afford it. The thing you must be upset about is an inability to afford it anywhere. So don't take it out on Nicaragua, right? It's unfortunate that you have no ability to afford what you want anywhere. But you can't expect the poor people of Nicaragua to give it to you for free just because you're a foreigner. That doesn't make any sense. And I've talked to a lot of expats, especially about the expats who've left the country. This is a big thing. Of the expats leaving the country, one of the well-known factors is a lot of them came here thinking they were going to get everything for free and that it would be just like the U.S. and that they would give up nothing and yet not have to spend anything, and found that they were expected to adapt to a different country, that they were expected to live within a different culture, that they were expected to actually pay for the things that they used. And yes, their dollar goes farther, but they were expecting essentially unlimited luxury for no money rather than simply a much more affordable luxury. And that they had to live within their means was not something that they were prepared for. And everyone always asks the same question. So what did they do? They left and went back to a place where they're living in a tent now? I have no idea. But that's the kind of budgets they were living with, right? So it's weird. Anyway, I wanted to respond to that comment because it did have kernels of truth in it, but it used them to make invalid points. And while Nicaragua is anything but perfect, that's part of its charm, is working within a very, very different culture where you're learning to adapt and learning to understand a people who are contextually so much different than ourselves. I think that's really important. That's part of the adventure. Please like and subscribe. Comments below. I want to know about your experiences, your questions, your comments. Are there more things I need to explain? Are there things that I got wrong? Let me know. Like and subscribe. And if you'd like to support me, you can buy me a coffee. I will see all of you for the beginning of this storm tomorrow.